Welcome back. This is part 4. It's my hope that I can get in all of the remaining content in this part and then do one last video of me giving the QRI-5 so you can see what that looks like. We just got done talking about what is total accuracy, which includes all miscues, even self-corrections. Now we're talking about what is an acceptable miscue for total acceptability. So an acceptable miscue is one that does not change or distort the meaning of the passage. For example, house for home, that would be the same part of speech, the same meaning. So that would be an acceptable miscue. So what is a meaning changing miscue? It is one that is any deviation from the text that results in an ungrammatical sentence or a grammatical sentence that changes the author's meaning. So that could include substitutions, mispronunciations, insertions, and omissions. So anything that changes the grammatical structure or changes the author's intent is going to be a meaning-changing miscue. So miscues can be categorized into 3 types: semantic, syntactic, and graphophonic. And we spoke a little bit about each of these last week. So a semantic meaning changing miscue, wow, say that 5 times fast, changes the meaning of the sentence. A syntactic meaning changing miscue changes the grammar of the sentence. So let's try some examples. Let's say they pronounce raven for ravine. Would that be a meaning changing miscue? What do you think? Yes, it actually would, because that would change the meaning as well as the structure. How about using the word noise in place of sound? Would that be a meaning changing miscue? No, that is not a meaning changing miscue, but you might want to make a note that they're not using their graphophonic or visual cueing system. Let's try some more examples. Ben had heard songs before. Is that a meaning-changing miscue if the original sentence was Ben had heard the songs before? So the difference being in place of the. Yes, it's actually 2 meaning-changing miscues. It's a semantic changing, since it changes the meaning when you have a versus the. And it's also a syntactic changing miscue because now you have an ungrammatical sentence. So it only counts as one miscue, but it is a miscue because it changes the semantic meaning as well as changing the syntactic structure of the sentence. How about came and listened to the music? Is that a meaning changing miscue if the original sentence is come and listen to the music? Yes, that would be a syntactic miscue because came is the past tense of come, which would also change the meaning there. So it would be syntax or tense. All right, some more examples. So let's say they read, the puppy put his paws on the cage instead of the puppy put his paw on the cage. Would that be a meaning changing miscue? Actually, this one is a tricky one. Your book says that a miscue for S is not a semantic meaning changer, so it's not counted as a miscue for total acceptability because it doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence. The puppy put his paw on the cage, the puppy put his paws on the cage. Yeah, it means he has more than one paw on the cage, but it doesn't really do much to the sentence there. So that actually would not count in total acceptability, but it would count in total accuracy. How about the puppy put his paw in the cage? That would be a miscue because it changes the overall meaning of the sentence. All right, some syntax examples. A few more syntactic meaning changers. For instance, if a main noun or verb is omitted, it changes the meaning. The omission of an adverb or adjective may not. So looking at words that they are omitting, does it change the meaning of the sentence? For example, then Mr. and Mrs. Mayer adopted him and brought him to America, versus then Mr. and Mrs. Mayer adopt him and brought his to America. So there's a miscue for ED, since that's a syntactic meaning changer, and then a miscue for his and him, since that is also a syntactic meaning changer. Those would count as miscues for total acceptability as well as total accuracy. So hopefully you're getting the idea of the difference between accuracy and acceptability and how to determine if the miscue is going to be, if it changes the meaning and if it should be counted against them in total acceptability. The bottom line is that it's better to underestimate a student's level than to overestimate it. And you should also be as consistent as possible. So if you count the deletion of ly as a syntactic meaning changer for one student, you should do it for all and note it so that someone who reads your notes will know. All right, so for total acceptability, this is how you determine their level. They are independent with 98% accuracy plus. They are instructional for 95 to 97%, so it's a little bit higher, and it's different than accuracy. And then frustration level is less than 94%. So you'll see that on the actual QRI assessment. It is different because total accuracy takes into account all of the miscues, whereas acceptability is not all of the miscues, so it's the percentages are higher that the student has to meet. All right, so let's take a look at what my assessment looks like with my student. So here are the concept questions. What does it mean when someone is lost? She said, you're lost when you can't find your family. What does it mean when someone is found? You found family and you're back together. When you're and then what does looking for something mean to you? When you're looking for something you need, I was looking for a paper. So she had, some rough idea. She was pretty familiar with the ideas of lost and found, etc. All right, and then I had her make a prediction. She thought it was about looking for something special, which was just one idea, not several. As far as the oral reading goes, she actually had no miscues here. So 0 miscues for accuracy and for acceptability. She did some repetitions, but those don't count. Let's see what else I want to tell you about. Moving on to, so going back to this, so since she had 0, she falls here. So far for oral reading, she's independent. Now, I took away the text and said, tell me everything you know about this that you remember reading, and she was able to tell me a good number of details, almost everything. As far as the comprehension questions, she got them all right. So she scored at the independent. So remember, she was independent on the pre-primer 2-3 word list. So I gave her the pre-primer 3 assessment, and she scored independent on this assessment, which doesn't always happen that they score independent on the same level word list and the same level passage, but that's how this worked out. So then I went and I gave her the primer level assessment, and that turned out to be her instructional level. So for narrative, I can conclude that she is at the pre-primer independent level, and then the primer instructional level, and then I would need to give her the assessments for expository as well. So that's what it looks like. Evaluating automaticity, so you're going to want to see page 70 for a chart of oral reading rate for words per minute and correct words per minute. You should be very good at calculating both of those things by now. For scoring the retell, you can see pages 71 to 75. It is actually not used to determine the reading level, just the comprehension questions and then the number of miscues. But it can provide you with valuable information for instruction. That's clearly a little bit of a red flag if they can read it to you but then can't recall any of the main ideas. So what you do for the retell is just place a check mark next to all of the ideas explicitly stated. Now, if you want to be fancy, which I did not do, but the QRI Administration Guide recommends sequencing the recalled ideas by using a number instead of a check. So putting a 1 next to the first idea recalled, a 2 putting a 2 next to the second idea recalled. And if you do that, you can then go back and kind of see if there's any trends or patterns to how they recalled the ideas. Did they first start talking about the characters, then the setting, or was it the problem that they jumped to? So that could help you do some even deeper analysis. All right, when you're scoring the questions, there are explicit questions. There are two question types: explicit, where the answers are explicitly stated in the text, and then implicit, which the reader must use clues to make inferences. The authors recommend that you do not give any sort of half points. They either get it or they don't. They also recommend using lookbacks, especially for grades 3 and up. So you can have them answer the comprehension questions without looking and then see if they can go back and find the answer as well. So determining levels based on comprehension, see QRI page 76. Again, I mentioned that I would show you a rubric for assessing fluency. You don't need to use anything like this time, but with your next student you will need to use a rubric to score their expression and volume, phrasing, smoothness, and pace, all of those components of prosody. Opportunities for practice. It might be a good idea for you to take a look at the DVD included with the QRI. You can watch me give the assessment next in our last lecture. In the video section of your QRI, you can watch portions of the assessment so you can see how to give them. You can look in the audio scoring and you can listen to actual assessments being administered and score along. And then in the forms and figures section, you can find the documentation of the assessments to see if how you would score it agrees. So definitely, if this is a new assessment tool for you and you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, please, watch me give the assessment, take a look at the DVD, listen to the audio, practice scoring. I think you'll get the hang of it having done the running record, but just in case you need some more help. All right, I'm going to stop there, upload this, and then the last video is just going to be a quick video of me giving the QRI 5 to my student at her independent level.